wondered how F1 captures those insane shots of cars flying by at over 200 miles per hour?
Charles Leclerc wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
126 cameras, over 140 mics, and hundreds of people working together. And it's more than just showing the races. Here's how they bring the world's fastest show to your screen. Filming F1 across 24 weekends a year, each in a completely different location, to broadcast it to 826.5 million people in over 70 countries. It's non-stop chaotic, and that's exactly what makes it so ridiculously awesome. But Joe, this topic's boring AF. Yeah, I know, I don't usually make vids like this, but the other day I was chatting with my best mate Jeff about it, and I was like, wait, I've never actually thought about this before. Because let's be real, who even thinks about this stuff? It's one of those things we take for granted every weekend. Like, oh cool, F1 is on. But once I fell down the rabbit hole and I unlocked a new dimension. Just as confusing as it is fascinating. Like, how did I never know about this? And wait, let me show you how it's actually such a badass masterpiece. I just had to talk about it. So, ever wondered how they capture every tiny detail and turn it into a legit masterpiece, weekend after weekend? The most important thing is, surprise, surprise, the cameras. They film with a crazy mix of all kinds of stationary and moving cameras. And yeah, I know this can be a lot, so let's break it down piece by piece. Let's kick things off with the coolest and priciest toy in the whole setup, the helicopter. The FIA brought it in back in the 90s to get those sweet aerial views. At first it was kinda lame, just hovering there showing some mere parts of the track. But it might be the only thing the FIA's ever actually improved, because today, this thing's become a beast, giving us jaw-dropping shots like these. The heli's got this super fancy stabilizer that keeps the footage super smooth, no matter how much it's bouncing around in the air. An operator inside controls the camera with a panel, coordinating it perfectly with the pilot to get the sickest shots around the circuit. And it's not just about keeping up with the race. They've also got to dodge buildings in the case of street circuits. Watch out for other helicopters, flying pieces of Stroll's car, you name it. Absolutely insane. And if you're wondering, no, they don't use drones in F1. But aren't they way cheaper? Yeah, totally. But they're just not as fast, and honestly, there's a much tighter chance of them crashing. Who would have thought drones and Stroll had so much in common?
Fernando Alonso goes off the track. That's a high-speed crash, and he's made contact with Lance Stroll.
But never say never. Drones might show up one day. Red Bull's been using them for some quick shots lately, so who knows?
Who that catches you through here? Ridiculous.
Yeah, going through here and then into
Top scoring.
But before you guys start puking, let's head down. Time to talk about the classic shots, the trackside ones. Without these, it'd pretty much be impossible to broadcast the races. Each track has about 25 of these, depending on how long the circuit is. And they're run by pro cameramen who work with these ridiculous Glass Valley cameras that cost around $250,000. Like, how's that? You better subscribe if you ever want me to bring one of those. These cameras are mounted on super light, special tripods that let them whip around at light speed to catch the car. A lot of them even use Canon broadcast lenses that can zoom in like 90 times. Plus, there are also slow motion cameras, like the Phantom V642, that can capture up to 5,850 frames per second. I have no idea what that means, but basically that's the magic behind those crazy shots of epic crashes where you see every tiny detail. Like, oh hey, there goes his front wing and his dignity. The trackside cameras aren't just randomly placed. They're carefully placed in spots where they can snag the best shots of the race, and they might even move them around each year to make sure we get even better angles. Usually on the Thursday before the race, they run a high-speed test with the safety car to make sure everything's working like a charm. Then during the free practice sessions, they fine-tune and lock in the perfect spots. Bet you never thought about all the behind-the-scenes planning that goes into this. Told you it was worth it to keep watching. We haven't even gotten to the craziest part yet. These sick pit lane shots you see at every race. That's all thanks to the CamCat. It's a remote-controlled camera that zips along a cable system, giving us those sweet dynamic angles. This thing can hit speeds of up to 80 miles per hour. Yep, 80. And just so you know, this tech isn't just for F1. It's also used in other sports like athletics and swimming. Basically, if there's a sport where people are moving fast, the camcat's there. Plus, sometimes they even set it up crossing over the track, and the shots it gets are just insane. Now let's talk about one of the most important cameras, the onboards, the ones that show you the action from the inside. How many do you think each car has? 3? Maybe 4? That's what I thought too. But nope, they've got 9. Yep, 9 cameras on a single car. There are 2 on each side of the nose, giving you a feel for just how insanely close the cars get when they're battling. Then there's a 360 cam mounted on top of the chassis, which they added not too long ago. One sits on the halo facing the driver. Then you've got the classic T-cam on top, giving you that familiar onboard view. Two are just behind the cockpit, one pointing forwards, one backwards. There's even a new one on the rear wing, so you can see exactly who's chasing you down. And the wildest of them all, the helmet cam. Yep, inside the driver's helmet, giving you that full-on video game POV. So, yeah, each car's basically got as many cameras as the FBI's got in your living room.
FBI, open up!
They were already playing around with giant, clunky cameras back in the 50s, but it wasn't until 1985 that they dropped the first onboard cam at the German GP. By 1989, the FIA was like, let's make this a thing, and they've been shrinking them and making them higher quality ever since. And they're always cooking up new ways to get funky with the angles and keep it interesting. And even though I've already shown you like a million different cameras, guess what? There's still more. Around the track, there are some fixed cams, like the ones they stick right in the curbs. Seriously, how do those things not get smashed? There are more above the team garages to catch pit stops from up top. And in the pit lane, there are like 5 camera guys running around grabbing all the action, plus some random cameras in the stands to catch people's reactions when stuff goes down. Basically, the whole thing is set up to make sure they catch literally everything that happens on and off track. Like, everything. But hey, what's the point of all those fancy cameras if there's no sound? That's why each track has like 147 microphones scattered all over the place with the cams, grabbing every bit of noise, from the screeching tires to the roar of the engines. Well, I say roar, it's more like a meow. Cause let's be honest, these V6s sound more like a lawnmower with attitude than actual race cars. I'll just say one thing, bring back this. And quit messing around with all this weak source stuff. Alright, yeah, having a gazillion cameras and mics everywhere sounds awesome, but at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of footage from all over the track happening at the same time. So how on earth do they wrangle 126 cameras and somehow turn that chaos into a live broadcast that actually makes sense? Well, this is where things get crazy as hell. About 300 people are behind the scenes making the broadcast happen. Before COVID, they all used to travel to every race where a temporary HQ was set up and everything was done on site. Now, around 180 people still head to the track and work at the ETC, where their main gig is to send all the camera feeds, audio and car data back to their base at Biggin Hill Airfield in Kent, UK. That's where the other 120 crew members are, working at what they call the RTC. This data is sent back to the UK by either dedicated fiber optic internet connection or satellite link. Then pretty much all the production for the world feed happens there. And shocker, it's actually made life easier, not harder, because it's cut down on all the gear and people they used to have to drag around the world just to make the broadcast happen.
We generate a huge amount of data from hundreds of sources, and without constant, reliable access to every bit, we wouldn't be able to tell the story of the race.
But guys, this job is way more complicated than it looks. I mean, it literally makes no sense. To gather all the important stuff, there's a replay team that watches the interesting bit so they can show them later at the right time. Then there's the track mix team, who follow the race live. And finally, there's the world feed team, who put it all together to actually create the broadcast. And the person in charge of picking all this? The broadcast executive director, aka the most stressful job in F1. Seriously, even more stressful than posting the best video on the entire internet every week. But seriously, how the heck do they even manage to coordinate?
Covering Formula One is tricky. It's very complex. There's multiple things happening simultaneously over a large real estate. It is really difficult sometimes to get all that information over to the fan without bombarding them as well. So it's got to be very intuitive, and they've got to come along into that journey with the data and with the graphics.
With the whole team staring at the screens like they've been possessed by the spirit of F1, they're constantly communicating to keep track of everything happening on the track. Holy shit. I'll never understand how the hell they managed to coordinate for 2 hours straight and keep track of everything.
Somebody makes contact with his old rival.
But it's not just about keeping up with the race. They've also got to tell a story, show the drama, catch the emotions, the reactions, the heartbreaks, the plot twists.
Well, this is highly unusual. Not all of the cars are allowed to unlap themselves.
So, there's confusion, but the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap.
This is it.
We're going to have one lap of racing to decide the championship as the crowd roar the drivers on to the final lap of this race. And Verstappen sends a lunge down the inside. Hamilton sees him coming. It's a late lunge by Verstappen, who takes the lead of the race. Verstappen, they almost make contact into turn 9. Verstappen stays ahead of Lewis Hamilton of all the drama.
No, Mike, that was so not right.
Will be delighted. They have shared a brilliant championship battle, but the championship can only be won by one, and it's going Dutch. Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world.
Oh my Lord, Max! Oh my God! Yes! Oh my God!
Max Verstappen, you are the world champion!
Basically build a whole narrative that actually makes sense. If Verstappen crashes, you don't just show the cars pulling over. You gotta show him losing his mind. The fans in the stands freaking out. You know what I mean? It's not about showing every single detail, but there always has to be a story. Like, if there's a chance of rain and a few drops start falling, they intentionally don't wipe the camera lenses, just to build the suspense. Like, uh-oh, it's coming. And if the race is boring as hell, they dig up replays from the start, find some spicy onboard clips, throw in some juicy radio messages, and try and build little side plots.
China, I got out of the way when you're on a different strategy.
Understood. We swap the cars.
Have a tea break while you're at it. Come on.
On top of all that, they have to stay as neutral as possible and try to show something from every car, just to keep all the team's sponsors happy. So yeah, it's total chaos that somehow works. And the worst part, we never even notice any of this. It's a job that's totally invisible, unless they mess up.
So we'll up by revanche here. Sebastian Vettel and Pierre Gasly. What has happened? We need to know who's going to come out in front as we see Lance Stroll.
Then, suddenly the whole internet turns into keyboard warriors and comes for their heads.
Wait a minute!
Hey, but someone please tell me this guy got fired. Of course, I'm talking about the TV director. Their job is basically to be ninjas, to do everything perfectly and make it look like they don't exist. And honestly, I think that's the real magic of F1. It looks like cars just going around in circles, but the more you dig into it, the crazier and more interesting it gets. And man, I've thrown a ton of info at you in this video. If you've stuck around and want something a bit more chill but still fun, check out this video. And as always, thank you for watching.